Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to a series of videos in which I am reading you a book. We are reading the good book. We are reading the Gospel according to St. Matthew. And we are dealing here, as we have been with the Gospel according to St. Mark, with an itinerant Nazarene wonder worker named Jesus, who has assembled a group of disciples, people that go with him everywhere, and is propounding a new message to the world, the gospel of the coming of the kingdom of God. And we saw him give a lot of precepts of that preaching at long last. For three chapters we get him preaching. Then we get him doing more miracle working. And now we're up to chapter 10, which has one sole focus in it. So this is chapter 10. And when he had called them, that is his disciples, when he had called them unto him, his 12 disciples, he gave them power against unclean spirits to cast them out, and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these: the first, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew, his brother, James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the publican, James, the son of Alphaeus, and Lebbaeus, whose surname is Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who also betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent forth, and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as ye go, preach, saying, The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely have you received, freely give. Provide neither gold nor silver nor brass in your purses, nor scrip for your journey, neither 2 coats, neither shoes, nor yet staves, for the workman is worthy of his meat, meaning, in exchange for the good you do for these places you go to, they will give you upkeep. And into whatsoever city or town ye shall enter, inquire who in it is worthy, and there abide till ye go hence. And when ye come into a house, salute it. And if the house be worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it be not worthy, let your peace return to you. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear your words, when ye depart out of that house or city, shake off the dust of your feet. Verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in the final judgment than for that city. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Let's just keep going here. But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues, and ye shall be brought before their governors for the kings for my sake, for a testimony against them and the Gentiles. But when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what ye shall speak, for it shall be given you in that same hour what ye shall speak. For it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you. And the brother shall deliver up the brother to death, and the father the child, and the children shall rise up against their parents, and cause them to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my sake, but he that endureth to the end shall be saved. But when they persecute you in this city, flee ye into another. For verily I say unto you, ye shall not have gone over the cities of Israel till the Son of Man be come. The disciple is not above his master, nor the servant above his Lord. Keep in mind, every time the King James Bible says servant, they mean slave. It is enough for the disciple that he is to be as his master, and the servant as his Lord. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more shall they call them of his household? Fear them not, therefore, for there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, and hid that shall not be known. What I tell you in darkness, that speak ye in light, and what ye hear in the ear, that preach ye upon the housetops. And fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a farthing, and one of them shall not fall on the ground without your Father? But the very hairs of your head are numbered. Fear ye not, therefore, ye are more value than many sparrows. Whosoever therefore shall confess me before men, him I will confess also before my Father which is in heaven. But whosoever shall deny me before him, him I will also deny before my Father which is in heaven. Think not that I am come to send peace to earth. I come not to send peace, but a sword. Keep in mind, this is still him giving instructions to his disciples as he sends them out to the world. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. No big challenge there. And a man's foes shall be they of his own household. He that loveth father and mother more than me is not worthy of me. He that loveth son and daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he that taketh not his cross and followeth after me is not worthy of me. He that findeth his life shall lose it, and he that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. He that receiveth you receiveth me, and he that receiveth me receiveth him that sent me. He that receiveth a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive a prophet's reward. And he that receiveth a righteous man in the name of a righteous man shall receive a righteous man's reward. And whosoever shall give a drink unto one of these little ones a cup of cold water only in the name of the disciple, verily I say unto you, he shall in no wise lose his reward. Okay, so that's a whole chapter devoted to Jesus' instructions to his disciples as he sends them out to go and preach the word. A whole chapter devoted to the very specifics of this. This is one of the longest speeches we've heard Jesus give outside of those 3 chapters that are only him speaking. All this time that we hear about him preaching in the synagogues, we never hear a word of what he says. All this time of him preaching to crowds, we have almost heard none of that. What about what he says to his disciples when they're alone, aside from those 3 chapters where he is giving this peroration? How does he talk? What do they talk about? Not a word of that. But this we get in full. Absolutely in full. You know that this was composed after the fact, later, that Christianity is already an established tradition when this is being written. Because otherwise, Jesus' words would make no sense to his disciples. Keep in mind, in the book of Matthew, Jesus has said vaguely that the bridegroom will be taken from the bridal chamber. He hasn't mentioned anything more specific than that. In this gospel, he has yet to say anything about the doom that he foresees for himself or the specific nature of it. He hasn't told the disciples any of that. So when he mentions, take up the cross, and he that taketh not his cross and follow me is not worthy of me, in the context of him speaking this to the disciples, they would have no idea what he means. None whatsoever. So this was composed later, and because it was composed later, because you have little details like that clearly show that the reader is supposed to know more about the context here than the disciples do themselves, you can start to ask yourself, well, if we didn't get all of that elaboration in the Gospel of Mark or anywhere yet in the Gospel of Matthew, why are we getting all this elaboration here? And I think one answer, there of course have been whole libraries written on these questions, but one answer is fairly obvious, which is that this was written at a time when Christian, we'll use the term missionaries, were going about in the world and needed something. They needed a code book, guidebook. This is very much that. This is meant for preachers. I'm not saying that in the context of reading this gospel as a work of literature, just as a book. Of course, Jesus would give his disciples extended instructions, just like this. I'm saying, why would we get them? Why would we hear them? There's so much that's more important that we don't hear. I think it's because you can read this in the context of later preaching, of a later church, a later movement that had grown up. Certainly you can read that in the instructions themselves. The 2 foremost characteristics of the instructions themselves will be very familiar to any of you who have studied cults. This is classic cult behavior 101. This is cult inculcation 101. Jesus is telling people 2 things. He's telling his disciples 2 main things. 1, this is going to separate you, me, I, the cult. I am going to separate you from everyone you love. And I should. If I don't separate you from everyone that I love, I scorn you. Then you're not worthy of me. I have to come between you and your father, you and your sister, you and your brother. I have to come between all of them. I come first. Let the dead bury the dead. Follow me. I come first. Total concentration on that. That's one element of basic cult programming. And another element of basic cult programming that encourages these new bonds that aren't family, that aren't friendship, is to create an attitude that you are a persecuted minority, that will throw you upon the comradeship of your fellow cult members. And Jesus does that in spades here. in spades, telling people you will be cursed. People will hate you in my name. They will serve you up to the governor, who will serve you over to be scourged. This is all going to happen to you because of me. You will be persecuted. I think we can look at that in two ways. One, it's basic cult programming. This is a cult that is separating its members from their world and making the cult their whole world. And two, it's all about Christian persecution, which can be looked at in historical context. Probably Christians were fairly persecuted when this was written and started to be majorly circulated. The only problem it presents in later years, which we're not doing, we're not really addressing any long-shadowed historical context at all here. We're just reading this as a book. But nevertheless, one context that it has produced that's kind of awkward in the last 1700 years, 1800 years, it's a long time, 2,000 years. In the last 2,000 years, Christianity has been utterly dominant. You couldn't hold any position in society, in public or private life, in government, in military. You couldn't do anything without Christianity. It has been all-pervasive and utterly dominant. And in the most religious countries in the world, the most Christian religious countries in the world, a few small nations in Africa and almost all of America, it is still. You can't get elected to office in this country. You might be able to get elected to office if you're professing some religion. You certainly can't get elected to office if you profess no religion. Then you're a Satanist. Then you're a child abuser. But 99.9% of all elected power in this country is Christian power, and of that 99.9%, 90% is fundamentalist nutjob Christianity. The third most powerful person in the government right now believes that God chose him to be the successor to Moses. He is a young earth, therefore a flat earth creationist. He believes that humans were created by magic 6,000 years ago. And he's the third most powerful person in the government. Till he gets ousted, he's the third most powerful person in the government. And the last administration, the vice president, the second most powerful person in the administration, he was serving an atheist president, but he himself was also a rabid fundamentalist nutjob who believed that women are the servants of men, that black people are lesser humans than white people, and that the earth was created by magic flat 6,000 years ago. So it's not like this is a fringe thing. And it's very awkward and very dangerous when you are so overwhelmingly powerful in society, but you still have it in your gospel that you must be a scorned and discriminated against minority. You must be persecuted. It is baked in to unhealthy Christian mentalities that they must be persecuted. They go looking for it if they don't get it. And if you have an enormous amount of power and you are not persecuted for your faith in any way, you'll lie and say that you are. And you will start to hurt people who you think are persecuting you. And you have the power to do it. They wouldn't dream of persecuting you. They couldn't if they tried. But this is where that comes from, is what I'm saying. Sentiments like this are baked into the gospel. Jesus is forever telling his disciples, you will suffer scorn, humiliation, and death on my behalf. And you should. You don't have any back doors to go to here. If the scorn and the humiliation and the threat of death gets too great, there's no retreating to your family. I've got to come before your family. So, in a way, a bit sinister. Although, again, it opens doors to things that I wish we'd see. We never see what the disciples do. Do they raise the dead? Do they go out and heal the sick? We see it in actually the apostles, which we will get to. But that's after Jesus is dead. We don't see it. We don't see any of these missions, many of them. We get little rumors here and there. But that is our latest chapter. Jesus spending a long, long time telling his disciples to always be sure to pack a toothbrush. Seems weird to add all that space to it, but we're going to move on next time. This is a much longer gospel than Mark, so we have a lot of ground to cover. We'll move on next time, and I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.